Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce Zanka. I'm the president of the Lake Rescue Association, and I'd like to call the 91st annual meeting of our association to order. Before we'd like to begin, we take some housekeeping matters and tell you about the format of today's meeting. So this is a hybrid meeting. We have people here in the hall at the Ludlow Town Auditorium, and then there's also people that are tuned in on Zoom. So because it's on Zoom, there's a couple things that we need to ask. If you have a question during the meeting, and we encourage questions and comments, we ask that you come up to the podium up here to make those comments. That way, the people on the Zoom bridge can hear what the questions are. And then also, so you know, our friends from Okemo Valley TV, our community access television station, are recording this. And they're broadcasting it live on Zoom, but they'll also record the meeting, and later this week they'll put it up on their website and on the YouTube channel. So you know, if there's something that you want to revisit or talk about there, that you can do that. So a special thanks to our producer and camera operator Sarah, who's a local recent college graduate and is helping us today, and we really appreciate her help, and Patrick Cody, the director of Okemo Valley TV's help as well. So before we start anything else, if you could join me in standing, and if you have a ball cap on, take it off, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag's right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. So folks that were joining in on Zoom, I think that's great. If you could do me a favor of muting your audio until you have a question. So you know, in terms of questions, you can, if you're on the Zoom call, you can virtually raise your hand, or you can send a chat text question to, and Jackie Thong here is going to help me by facilitating the Zoom call and doing that. So, all right, well, we have a packed agenda. First, what I'd like to do is introduce you to our board of directors and explain the mission of the Lake Rescue Association, including what we do and don't do. Then we'll cover the financial aspects with the treasurer report, and we'll be previewing our upcoming dredging project. We'll have an update on our controlling milfoil. We'll also discuss our membership and fundraising efforts, update you on the state dock lawsuit, and discuss upcoming vacancies on our board. Well, we're excited at the end of the meeting to have two special guests. Brendan McNamara, the Ludlow Municipal Manager, who's been a great government partner in helping us. And then we also have our favorite game warden, Sergeant Tim Carey from the Vermont Warden Service, who we see frequently on the lakes. And he came in on his day off to meet with us today. So Tim, we really appreciate you being in there. We'll hear from them at the end, and there'll be a chance. So as I said, if you're attending remotely, you can ask a question by typing in the chat box or electronically raising your hand. So does anybody know what I did with my glasses? Thank you. It's one of the vagaries of getting old. So about the Lake Rescue Association. Lake Rescue Association is a 501c3 charity. Our mission is to protect and preserve the watershed and ecology of the lakes region, including the portions of the Black River, Round Pond, Lake Rescue, and Lake Pauline. We spend a great deal of time safeguarding against existential threats to our lakes and property values, such as Eurasian milfoil mitigation. We look out for the wildlife. We work on sedimentation issues, and of course, we're interested in lake safety. We've worked hard to connect better with the state and the town, the select board, to align and shed light on the important issues to the lake regions. The one thing I'd have to say about the Lake Rescue Association, this is particularly for new members, we often get comments like, why doesn't the association stop people from doing this? Or what did the association say? Or how is the association letting wake boats come on the lake? The thing about the Lake Rescue Association is we don't have any enforcement authority. We're a volunteer organization, you know, and you know, we do a lot, but we don't have any police authority, we don't have any, you know, taxing authority, we don't have any authority. We rely on the state that owns the lake and the town that owns the dam to do those things, and we're happy to work closely with all of them. So I just hope that you can appreciate that as much as we want to have an influence on some of these things, we do it by, you know, kind of policy and advocacy, but we don't really have any authority per se, so, you know, other than maybe moral authority in taking a look at what's going on. So with that, let me introduce the board to you. On my left here is Spencer Rubin. Spencer's the vice president and you know, heads a lot of our fundraising efforts. Our treasurer is Kevin Goldmont. Kevin couldn't be here today. He's climbing a mountain in Montana at the moment, and you think, oh, why couldn't the guy be here? But I have to tell you, Kevin has spent hundreds of hours managing both the finances of the Lake Rescue Association, but also the forthcoming dredging project. And so we're going to hear from him in just a few minutes. He pre-recorded both his treasurer's report and the dredging report that we'll be able to show on this screen here, and then give you an idea. And if we have questions about the things that he presents between us here on the board, you know, we can do that. So our secretary and the editor of the Lake Breezes newsletter is Natalie Fisher, and she's very hardworking and just does a great job. And she's been how long have you been on the board?
13 years.
Yeah, 13 years. So, you know, you get less for manslaughter. 13 years. That's pretty impressive. Gigi Katzif here is you know, an active committee member. She also managed the committee that did the annual picnic. I felt bad for Gigi this year because she organized all the picnic, did a great job, and then had COVID and couldn't come to the party. So I want to acknowledge her for all of that work, and she had just a great committee that helped her on that. Phil Newell, down on my right here, is well, my wife calls him film oil because he works on the milfoil so much, and you know, he's constantly harvesting and diving and all that. And his partner in crime on the milfoil is the intrepid George Thompson. George also is our kind of resident steward on Lake Pauline, and really looks out for all of his neighbors there and represents their interests really well on the board. So let's see, who did I get? I got Jackie. Oh my goodness, Jackie's the hardest working woman in show business. So she besides helping me on the Zoom call today, also manages our social media efforts. And so if you look at the Instagram account, the Facebook page, you know, all of these activities that go on, she's constantly doing that, and she'll talk more about that later, but we can ask for your help in all of those kind of things and preparing the messages. You can participate in the social media then. So as I said, Kevin Goldmont, our treasurer, couldn't be with us today because he's in Montana climbing Granite Peak. He recorded his treasurer's report and the dredging report earlier this week. He and I recorded it, and so I can tell you all of these people here spend literally hundreds of hours working on behalf of all of you, our neighbors, the people of Lake Rescue, the people of Ludlow, the town around. You know, we're stewards of the lake, but the lake is for everybody. So the fishermen that come from all over the county and state to do that, the people that come and put their boats in for a day and go out, and all of them work very tirelessly for our community, and they have my gratitude and thanks for that. We're all lucky to have them. So
don't let him forget the minutes.
this is going to be my last meeting as the president of the Lake Rescue Association. I'm going to step aside after this meeting. I've been a board member. I joined the board in 2017 and then became co-president in 2018. And, you know, we've done some good work, I think, and I'm happy with that. But I'm going to step aside from the presidency. And
good. I am on a Zoom meeting. Can I call you later?
yeah, call her later. And please mute your phone. Thank you. So what I was saying is I'm taking a step back. I'm going to stay on the board for a year to help in the transition. We're going to be talking a little bit about our future board composition later this morning. But I just want to thank my colleagues as I'm on my way out the door for all of their hard work. So as I mentioned, Kevin Goldmont is in Montana climbing a mountain, and if you see Kevin around here on that, he earlier this summer every day would put a 40-pound pack up, and he'd start at Taggart Sports, and he'd walk up to the top of Okemo Mountain with that 40-pound pack. And, you know, I saw him do it 6 days in a row in training for his mountain climbing. So he's a pretty impressive guy. And when he's not doing that, he's working on the dredging. So without further ado, I'm sorry. 2 housekeeping matters. Our friend Amy Newell here has a sign-in sheet. If you were waiting on the stairs and didn't get to sign in, we please ask you to do that. And then the first business thing that we need to take care of is approval of the minutes of the last meeting. We distributed those. If there isn't any additions or corrections, the chair entertains a motion to approve.
I move we approve.
All those in favor? Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you. And part of the reason we wanted to do the perfunctory thing of approving the minutes is Natalie does a great job on transcribing all of these things and doing it. It's a lot of work for all that. So as I said, Kevin Goldmont is this is a canned presentation. He's not on the Zoom call. So if after his 2 presentations, we'll be happy to take questions if anybody has one, to the extent that we can answer those. So we'll go ahead and start the...
Good morning. My name is Kevin Goldmont. I am the treasurer of the Lake Rescue Association, and I will be giving the financial report for 2023. In 2023, the Lake Rescue Association transferred from a fiscal year end to a calendar year end, and we filed our first full calendar year tax return in May of 2024. I will also provide an overview of the first 6 months of 2024, and lastly, after discussions on dredging and milfoil, I will provide a projection of our income expense through this year end. This slide is a summary of LRA's sources of income. As you can see, we have 5 sources: grant income, interest income, Independence Day event, membership dues, and donations. Our primary source of income comes from members, dues, and donations, which account for roughly 80% of our income in 2023. Grant income fluctuates based on the amount of LRA milfoil spending and the state's decision on how much they will reimburse. There will be a separate milfoil discussion later, and if you have questions about how the grant works and the timing of payments, you can ask them at that time. Interest income is up in 2023. That's mainly because of the larger cash balances we've had to invest and the higher interest rates we've achieved. Income from members' dues and donations declined in 2023 by about 14%. However, year over year, our income is about the same at $123,000. This is a comparison of our 2023 expenses to 2022. 2023 total expenses were $90,379, which is up approximately $16,000 compared to 2022. The year-over-year increase in expenses was driven by legal fees of $40,000 and offset by lower dashboard expenses and reduced milfoil spending due to the July 23 storm. The good news is that the LRA challenge to the state docks is over and the legal fees will not be incurred in the future. The bad news is LRA lost the fight, and that'll be discussed later on in this presentation. Also, the dashboat expenses should decrease in the future since we have replaced the trailer, we have a new motor, and a new floor installed on the boat. So we expect the milfoil boat expenses to decrease significantly. We should also expect milfoil expense to ramp up in 2024 from 2023 because 2023 program was curtailed. LRA should expect milfoil spending to be in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000 in 2024 compared to $31,000 in 2023. This is a summary of income and expense between 2023 and 2022. This highlights that the revenue did not change significantly and LRA expenses increased primarily due to the non-recurring legal expenses. Net income for 2023 was $32,000. Our assets are cash and investments. Our total assets are $408,405, which represents the increase of $32,000 to $362 over 2022, which was our net income in 2023. As the Berkshire Bank CDs matured in 2023, these funds were transferred to investments in American portfolios where we were able to achieve higher interest rates than we were at Berkshire Bank. The American portfolios are CDs with various maturities and rates ranging from 4.7 to 5.5%. This slide is a comparison of income for the 6 months ended June 30th, 2024 versus 2023. Total income is down in the first 6 months of this year, primarily due to lower milfoil grant income and donations. Milfoil grant income is down because the LRA milfoil expense was curtailed in 2023 due to the July storm. Keep in mind that LRA is on a cash basis and the current year grant money is driven by last year's milfoil expenses, which were curtailed due to the storm. Also, in the first half of 2024, our interest income has remained higher than it was in 2023. This is because we continued to have higher cash balances and were able to achieve higher interest rates. We expect this to decrease in 2024 and over time as we spend down our financial resources and we have less money to invest. Also, our donations are down by approximately 20% in the first 6 months of 2024, and this is just the normal attrition, I would say, that we are experiencing as the Rescue Our Lakes fund drive is winding down. This is a comparison of the first 6 months expenses of 2024. The total expenses are $21,000 compared to $52,000 in 23. However, the 23 expenses are overstated because LRA canceled its dredging plan in 23 and 100% of the dredging costs listed here of $25,000 was refunded, which makes up the lion's share of the difference between the two periods. Also in 23, there's $12,000 worth of legal expenses that do not recur in 2024. Most of our spending occurs in the third and fourth quarter, and we will provide an estimate of that later. This is the summary of income and expense for the 6-month period. However, because of events after June 30th of 2023 changed the ultimate results in 2024 2023, it is not useful. For the remainder of 2024, we expect that both milfoil and dredging project expenses will exceed our income in 2024, and LRA will have a net loss for the year. As of June 30th, 2024, our cash and investments total $417,404, which is approximately $58,000 more than June 30th of 2023. As the Berkshire Bank's CDs matured in 2023, these funds were moved to investments in American portfolios where we were able to get higher rates than Berkshire Banks. The American portfolio CDs have various maturities and rates ranging from 4.7 to 5.5%.
Is that the end of his? So that's the end of Kevin's treasurer's report. You know, we're very fortunate to have a skilled CFO CPA that's you know, brought a great deal of professionalism to our finances, and Kevin's done a great job on that, and also has automated bill payment and things like that for the various expenses, and you know, really like the work that he's done. Kevin also is managing the dredging project. We'll have another presentation on in a minute. To the extent that I can answer any, or any of us can answer any questions about the finances, are there any questions? To remind you of those on the Zoom link, you can either virtually raise your hand by pushing the button inside Zoom, or you can send a chat request. You can send a chat request to ask a question on the Zoom link. So, are there any questions on the finances? If not, let's move on to the dredging report.
You got to approve it.
Oh, great. And I see that there's a sign-in sheet that's going around. Please make sure that you sign in on that so we can be in contact with you. So let's hear from Kevin on the dredging report. What's that?
I'm going to walk you through the dredging program. The things I'm going to cover will be permitting, the overview of the project layout, our timeline, access and navigation during the project, the impact on residents of Benson Point, and things you can do to help.
Starting with permitting, LRA applied for a new lake encroachment permit in the spring of 2024. Our requests in the new application were, 1, to move the dewatering pad from the fishing access to Benson Point Road. By doing this, we will take the heavy truck traffic off the dirt roads behind the lake and move them over to Route 100. 2 was to increase the amount of material to be removed from 1,200 cubic yards to 5,500 cubic yards. And 3 was to add the Benson Cove channel. This application will also extend to August of 2029. However, it is a moot point, assuming that we dredge this year. The public comment period expired on July 31st of 2024, and I do not believe there were any comments. The permit will become effective upon signing, and I expect that that's going to happen before August 20th of 2024. We've also applied for a fishing access permit and expect to have that by August 31st of 24. This is an overview of the current plan. This is an aerial view looking east from Route 100 North. Thanks to Bill Vonneman for providing this aerial from July 22nd of 2024. Round Pond is on the left, the Narrows in the middle of the page, and the main body of Lake Rescue is on the right. The fishing access is marked at the top of the middle of the picture. So what is our plan? The plan is to remove sediment to a maximum depth of 4 feet on both sides of the sandbar and reduce the size of the sandbar. The sandbar is currently blocking the flow of the river and forcing the flow out into Round Pond, depositing more and more sediment further out into Round Pond. The project is divided into 2 areas. There's Project A, which is marked basically in the middle of Round Pond there, and that is approximately a 1.5 acre area inside the white line, and it's the original footprint of our permit from the prior period. Project B is a proposed 24 by 200 foot channel to be cut behind the sandbar, giving access into the cove. The projects are subject to availability of time, resources, and weather. Now, how do we do that? Well, we're going to install a turbidity curtain that will surround the entire project area for the entire length of the project. The dredger will operate inside the turbidity curtain, and the purpose of the curtain is to contain the disturbed sediment and cloudy water as the dredger operates. You can see there's a blue line that starts in the middle of Project A and lines up the river to a blue square at the lower left-hand corner of the page, which will be the dewatering pad. The blue line is the dredge line, which will carry water and sediment up to the dewatering pad. The dredge line will pass up the river to the Kissel property, where the dredge line will turn up the hill through the Kissel property and to the Benson lot at the corner of Benson Point Road and Route 100 North. If you were to go visit the Benson lot right now, you'll see there's currently piles of fill dirt on the Benson lot, which will be leveled to make room for the dewatering pad. The dewatering pad consists of two 45 by 100 foot dewatering bags that will capture the dredged material. The water is then drained from the bags, leaving the sediment in the bags. Generally, except for the first week, the schedule will be dredging Tuesdays through Friday, and the bags will drain over the weekend, and on Monday, the sediment will be loaded and hauled away. 2 new bags will be laid out, and the process will start all over. This will be repeated each week for 7 weeks. This is my estimate of the total dredging costs. I estimate it to be $317,000 and line item by major categories. The site preparation is for grading the Benson lot, hay bales, silt fence, gravel for the dewatering pad, plastic liners, site prep labor. The dewatering bags really is based on quoted cost for 15 bags that are 45 by 100 plus the related freight. Dredger rental is $7,000 a week plus delivery, return, and the crane service to load and unload the dredger. The dredge line rental and turbidity curtain are based on quotes. The load, haul, and grade is moving the sediment material from the Benson lot down to the disposal lot. The site cleanup represents cleaning up and restoring the 4 areas that we will disturb, which is the Benson lot, the Benson disposal lot, the Kissel property, and the fishing access. Dredger fuel is exactly that. Dredger fuel, we've assumed that it's $4 a gallon for diesel fuel at 12.3 gallons an hour, 40 hours a week, and 7 weeks, which will total $14,000. And the dredging crew costs us $10,000 a week, and that's about for a 3-man crew, which is about $83 a man hour. So our total costs are $317,000. This is our timeline for the dredging activity. We plan to start on September 5th and 6th, when the turbidity curtain will be delivered and installed. Most of the work related to this will be done at the fishing access or out in the project area. The turbidity curtain will be assembled and connected at the fishing access and then pulled out into the lake and anchored to the bottom of the lake. On September 9th, we expect to grade and contour the Benson lot, and that activity will happen at the Benson lot, and I expect it'll just be a bulldozer there pushing and moving around the fill that's there. On the 10th and 11th, United Rentals will be there, be at the Benson lot, installing the dredge line. Basically, the pipe will go from the Benson lot through the Kissel property down to the river. It'll run down the river to the sandbar, which it'll sit there until we get the dredger in the water on the 12th. So on the 12th, you see, we're planning on having the dredger delivered and launched at the fishing access. And then on the 13th, we'll connect the dredger to the dredge line, and the dredge line will be connected to the dewatering bags, and we'll be able to test to see that we're ready to go. And then on the 16th, we expect the dredging activity to start in earnest, and that will continue from September 16th to October 31st. We plan to remove the dredger on November 1, and then the turbidity curtains can't be removed until the water is no longer cloudy, and then we can remove the turbidity curtain, which we would expect that that'll take about 2 weeks into November 15th. So, how does this affect boating? Basically, the access and navigation to lake rescue during the projects is as follows. The fishing access will remain open during the project. I expect that we'll probably use 25 to 50% of the fishing access area, but mostly it won't be every day. It'll just be on the days that we're there. Secondly, the channel between Round Pond and Lake Rescue will remain open through the Narrows, but may be restricted from time to time as we have to move the dredger or move the dredge line or something like that. And access to the Black River will be limited. I would recommend that Black River residents should consider removing their docks or the boats or anything that has to pass through the channel from the river out into the lake by September 6th. If you don't do that, we'd be able to accommodate you, but you may have to wait until we can actually remove the barriers for you. So the impact for residents on Benson Point should be minimal. During the day, there will be 1 or 2 attendants to the dewatering pad located at Benson Point lot. They will be monitoring and filling the bags. The dewatering bags will be out of the way of the car traffic and should not impose any kind of barrier. The dredge line will pass under the roadway by the 10-mile-per-hour sign, and it may cause a speed bump, but shouldn't be any kind of a barrier for you. Any heavy trucks should not cross the dredge line. So if you expect to have propane deliveries, septic tank pump outs, or other large equipment, I ask that you consider doing it before September 6th. If you do have to have it done then, we can see what we can do to accommodate and put down boards or whatever to protect the dredge line. But the dredge line, will be okay for car traffic, but probably shouldn't have heavy trucks running across it. On Mondays, the material collected in the dewatering bag will be loaded and hauled away. There will be the sound of construction equipment for part of the day, loading the trucks and trucks hauling the material down Route 100. Things you can do to help. Well, minimize your travel through the Narrows. I mean, the less boating traffic we have going through, the better off we're going to be. But if you do have to go there, you should maintain no wake speeds, and I would suggest that you maintain a no wake speed throughout all of Round Pond. Anybody that has large docks or boats that have to travel through the Narrows or down the Black River, they should do that before September 6th, which would be helpful because the channel is going to be narrower during the dredging project and just harder to get through. So I would suggest that if you have a large boat or a large dock that has to pass through the Narrows or down the river, that you remove them by September 6th. If you have any questions, you can reach me, Kevin Goldmont, at lakerescuetreasure@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you on any questions that you have.
Okay, well, thanks to Kevin Goldmont for that. We jokingly call the room above his garage the Lake Rescue World Headquarters. And he spends a lot of time in that layer coordinating all of this. And in a real essence, he's been the general contractor. There's been some changes in all of that. The vendor that we used in 2011, Chris Sheldon, to do the dredging has some family issues, and his wife is sick, and he's not able to do the project. He has transferred the business to his nephew, who has the same last name, and he's now managing that project. So some of the stuff that Chris might have done in the past, Kevin has taken on in organizing that, and has made a difference. I have to go back for just a minute and ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Gigi so moves, second by Phil. And all in favor of approving the report, aye. The ayes have it by acclamation. Okay, so now we can, yeah, we're going to have some questions about the dredging.
Yeah, you didn't really.
If you wouldn't mind, could you go to the microphone just because we want the people to be able to hear on the Zoom. Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, it's Lisa Ham Greenwald. Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
on Benson Point. I'm wondering if you could just briefly describe the Benson Cove addition, because he mentioned it, but he didn't detail it at all.
Kevin and I met with some of the residents around Benson Cove last year and considered that, so we're going to dredge as much of that as possible, and I think we'll take care of the concerns that the community had and all of that. It seemed like the dredging project itself and what you guys wanted to accomplish in Benson Coves, those issues were aligned because there's been so much sedimentation that's come down the river that you know, we decided to help increase the flow as it was coming through, that it made sense to do that. So we're going to take out 5,000 cubic yards or more of material. To put that into context for people that don't think that way, you know, a PR guy like me, that's 500 dump truck loads. 500 dump truck loads. So if you've just joined the call, you could mute your microphones. I'd appreciate that. So you know, it's a big job. Did that answer your question, Lisa? Okay, so we are taking care of that area there, and you know, just as an aside, we had a great big oak tree fall in that area just the other day, and a dedicated crew of Lake Rescue Association volunteers went in last week, and we delimbed that tree and took that material all to the fishing access and to the dump for disposal. We're going to try to figure out how to get the tree out of there. We don't necessarily need to remove that tree for the dredging, but we're going to be talking to the homeowners, the Bensons, about maybe how to get that big oak tree out. It was a big effort. So, in doing that. You bet. We're happy to do it, you know. No, I don't know if we're happy to do it, but I fell out of the little dinghy that we had, the John boat that we had, with a running chainsaw, and went up to went under the water and had you know, Gary McIntyre can tell you, I had the saw up in the air. It was a really good recovery. So, and it's the last time I want to do that. So, so very good. Are there other questions about the dredging project? You know, there's one other point that I want to make. I'm sorry. Alice, if you don't mind going to the microphone, thank you.
Alice Nitka. I'm just wondering, I don't understand the dredging process. Does a lot of water come out and go into the bags as well?
Yeah.
And if so, where's that drain to?
Sure. So let me explain that. So there is a process where the sediment in the water comes out. So there is the dredging machine feeds a pipe, and that pipe pumps that material up to the lot that Kevin referred to. When we did it last time in 2011, we pumped that material to the fishing access. And we had a big Megillah with the Fish and Wildlife. You know, at the time, they didn't like that we used the fishing access for all of that time. And so we decided for two reasons to move the dewatering bags and the pipe to the Route 100 side of that. So now what we're going up is we're taking the pipe and it's going up the Black River through the Kissel's property to a lot that George Benson has allowed us to use. And there's going to be two 45-foot by 100 bags that are there. And that lot is next to a little bit of a creek. So what happens is the dredging material flows into those big dewatering bags. And then the dewatering bags drain that into a creek, so the water goes back into the lake through that creek in that area. And then a couple of days it drains and the water goes back. And then on Mondays, we'll be taking a front-end loader and putting that material into the dump trucks, and then we're going to take it down Route 100 to a lot that we've arranged to dump the material in, and doing that. And so what that also means is that we're not going to have 500 dump truck loads on East Lake and Ellison Lake Road in going to that. You know, part of the reason we put off the dredging project last year is after the July 7th flood, there was so much road damage and temporary fixes on the roads that we decided that it was better both to not use the fishing access as much and not to have the dump trucks on the dirt roads. And I think the town appreciated that. And so that's what's going on there.
So on which side of the landing pad area is the creek? Where is it? Is it on the Plymouth side or the Ludlow side?
It's
on the
It's
Ludlow
Ludlow.
side.
It's
creek-
Ludlow.
The creek is on the Ludlow
Is south.
side?
Yeah, it's just south.
South.
So, yeah, it's right next to where.
It's coming through your property? It's coming through your property?
Well, in her backyard, you know, there's a,
Into the little frog pond?
Yeah.
right, the water,
I think if she could answer that. Jackie, is it coming into the frog pond behind your house?
I believe so, but I can't be 100%.
yeah, it's, oh, I don't know if you call it from, there's a little creek down there. Alice, I'm happy to bring you by there to
No,
show
no,
it to you.
I live right near there, so I just want to know where the water's coming in.
Yeah, the water's coming in, you know, it'll flow back
From
into
the
the lake
north.
through
To the south.
through a little creek that runs behind Benson Point.
It's not a live creek 100% of the, year. So in the spring, when the meltdown, that's when you see, and it's really between our
And it
properties.
is coming into the
Yeah,
frog
I
pond
believe
behind
that's,
your
yes,
property.
I believe that to be true.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any problem with that? Okay, great,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
It's not always there, it's, but it, yeah.
Pretty dry right now.
It's a creek
It's
bed,
a seasonal
anyway.
creek.
Creek bed.
So you know, we ran this schema through DEC and they approved the permits and the plan for doing that. I do want to let you all know, just because I think you'll be interested in, I'm personally really disappointed with the reaction that we got from DEC last year. After the July 7th flood, I ended up meeting with a FEMA official, and we made a pitch for FEMA to pay for the dredging, and they agreed to it. But they needed the permission of the lake owner, the state of Vermont. So Kevin Goldmont and I made an appointment with Julianne Moore, the DEC commissioner. We met with her on a Zoom link. The FEMA guy was there and said, yes, we can pay for the dredging, or at least a good portion of it. You know, as I said, our expenses are over $300,000. And the state of Vermont declined to do it. They said that if they did it for us, they might have to do it for other people. It wouldn't cost the state any money in all of that. I'm just appalled by the decision. You know, it puts the burden of taking care of the lake on the homeowners. The state owns the lake, but they don't do anything to help us on it, and it's such a disappointment. You know, I wrote a letter expressing our disappointment afterwards, but I guess you can't fight City Hall. So if you ever have a chance to see Julianne Moore or Governor Scott, you should give them a piece of your mind. I certainly will when I see them. So it's a real disappointment that and this project, you know, is going to wipe out our cash reserves. You know, we've Spencer and our colleagues on the board did a great job of raising the funds for us to be able to do that. You know, they ask us to take all of these kind of milfoil expenses on every year, and they give us a very modest grant, but we pay far more than we do. And when the state had a chance to help us in this community by, you know, just saying yes, you know, they declined and said no. So I think it was a misguided decision by the state, and you know, I'm disappointed in our government. So it's really too bad. I want to prompt for any questions off of the Zoom link, if there's any there. I know that we had a question from Joanna D'Antonio, and we're going to refer that to when the warden comes out and speaks, because her question is regarding bears. So are there any other questions about the dredging? Oh, okay, John Eckel has a question. Do you want to read it?
Is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So question from John Eckel. It's more of a request. Several property owners and LRA members have applied for and received a dredging permit in front of their respective properties, which was co-signed by Chris Sheldon. However, that dredging appears to be in jeopardy due to the time it will take for the LRA dredging. Anything the LRA can do to encourage West Sheldon to honor Chris Sheldon's commitment would be appreciated.
Okay, John, well, I appreciate your concern, and we'll certainly do what we can. John Eckel, has a dredging permit near his house on Round Pond. I think the Schwartzes and some of the other homeowners at the other end of the lake down in, what's that cove called? Near where Barb Silver and the Archibald Lane properties, they have a dredging permit as well. And the problem that we have is, just time constraints. It's man hours for doing this, and the Lake Rescue Project is for, everyone on the lake. And although we're cognizant of the homeowners' needs and would like to help support them, the project that has to take priority for us is one for the larger lake in the community, because it really involves everyone that uses Lake Rescue and goes through the channel from Round Pond to the bigger lake. And so we can encourage West Sheldon to do that project, but frankly, looking at our needs of what we need to dredge and that, I'm just not sure that it's going to be able to take place. So we're sympathetic. If there's enough time and it goes well that they can do those things, we don't have any problem with that. But the Lake Rescue larger project has to take priority, and I hope you'll understand that. And wish you luck in getting yours done. Maybe you should look for another vendor. So that's that question. Any other questions? Okay, so now we can move on. And
You have to approve it. You have to get it approved.
oh, I'm sorry. Chair entertains a motion to accept the dredging report.
Moved.
Natalie moves.
Second.
George seconds. All in favor? Aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Okay, so where are we now? Okay, now it's time to talk about milfoil remediation. I'll let George take that on and go ahead. And Phil, if you have any comments, do that. And if anybody else has a comment to talk, let's talk about milfoil.
Milfoil seems like the unending project. And in fact, it probably will be, because our goal is really to cut back on it, control the milfoil as much as we possibly can. Absolutely eliminating it is just something that is probably in fantasy land. So our goals really is to mitigate the effects that it's going to have on our ability to enjoy the lakes, our fishing, our boating, our kayaking, our paddleboarding, our playing in the lakes, and also to protect our property values. So we're working hard to do that. The status after the July flood, we already heard Kevin talking about that a bit. We didn't know what to expect once the flood hit. As you all know, the water was so murky that you couldn't see anything, you couldn't get down into it. The divers couldn't do much work last year as far as mitigation of the milfoil. The bottom barriers had been placed, and our permit requires that we take them out at the end of the season in September. However, the water was so turbid and so murky that they couldn't do that. So that was the first project that they got to do this spring, was to go down, find those bottom barriers covered with all that mud and silt and whatnot, bring those up to the surface, clean them all, and get them ready to deploy again this spring. So that was the first project that they ended up doing, and that's 63 bottom barriers that have been repositioned and whatnot, again, in the areas where it's particularly dense milfoil. So, interestingly enough, we didn't know what to expect, whether milfoil was going to grow in that mud or what it was going to do. As it turns out, there appears to be less dense areas of milfoil in Lake Rescue than we had in previous years. There are more spots where singular plants or a few plants are located, but it doesn't seem like it's expanded greatly in Lake Rescue. Interestingly enough, in Lake Pauline, there are more spots and more dense areas. So our divers are contracted to remove milfoil with the dash boat in Lake Rescue and Round Pond. In Lake Pauline, we have permission from the landowner so that they can put in a smaller boat and they go around and they do hand harvesting in Lake Pauline. They are contracted to work. We increased their time this year in our contract. They're contracted to work about 6 hours a day, and they can work up to 5 days a week. Imagine doing that for your job underwater, pulling out those lovely weeds and stuff and extracting them.
Phil does it for free.
In addition to that, we increased the time for monitoring at the access area. So we have, we're giving it our all this year, trying to recover from last year when we obviously weren't able to do much work at all. So that's kind of the actions that we've taken so far this year. I have volunteer support. If we're going to keep this milfoil under control, it involves all of us. We'd ask that that you volunteer. You can go out. Volunteering is as simple as going out when you're out in your kayak or your paddleboard or whatnot, and if you see fragments that are floating of milfoil, collect those, because if you don't, they're going to sink someplace and start new plants. So it can be simply going out and monitoring the lake, picking up milfoil fragments in your area. If there are milfoil plants outside on your property, shoreline, we ask that if you're able, you can hand harvest those now yourself. We used to say it could only be done by the professionals. We're all professionals. We all need to work on this together. If you don't know how to do it, there's a handout in the back that talks about hand harvesting milfoil from your own properties. If we all take care of our own properties and the areas in front, that'll be a big help. If you are out, you see growing milfoil plants, you can't hand harvest, you don't have the ability to do that. We have buoys in the back. Please mark the area with a buoy and let either Phil or I know. We'll let the divers know that milfoil was found in a particular area, and hopefully they'll be able to get to that and address that as well. So you can use buoys and mark those as well. Let's see, the one thing I would ask, I do the grants. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to write the state grant every year to try to get some funds from the state to help us support this project. They do require volunteer participation. They want to see that it's not just the state throwing in some money or that it's just a money issue. They want to see that there is a commitment of people on the lakes to try to take care of this problem as well. So there are some volunteer monitoring sheets in the back. We ask that you pick one up. If you go out, you're out monitoring, you're out checking to see if there's any fragments or whatnot. Just make a note. Put your name down, put what you did. It tells you at the bottom of the form, and you fill in your hours. Later in the season, in September, October, I'll be asking for people to submit those to me so I can count up all the hours to find out how many people picked up fragments, how many hours do we have for each of those areas, so that I can report that in the state. So it is required to have volunteer participation. I'd ask you all to do that. Quick cost. Kevin mentioned the cost. The actual budget that we have put together is $72,677 to do milfoil work this year. Of that, we potentially, it depends on how much money we spend, can get up to $19,000 from the state this year, which is the most we potentially have ever been able to receive. Last year you saw it was less than $3,000. And usually it's around 10 or 11. So hopefully this year we'll be able to get a little bit more money from the state to do that. We do get reimbursement for management, which is what I talked about, and we get money for the greeter program as well. As I said, it's an ongoing project. It's not going to go away. We're stuck, and Kevin, I think, mentioned we're stuck with probably $60,000 that we have come up with every year to help.
Kevin did a short video that we can roll.
Good.
To talk about the expenses.
Perfect. All right. The only other thing I want to say is we will be having to do fundraising again to raise money to take care of this issue and this problem. I will tell you that one way you can do it is buy a duck. You'll see a sign outside. The Ludlow Rotary Club has joined with the Lake Rescue Association to do their duck race, and any monies that they raise on the duck race this year are going to the Lake Rescue Association. And so you can buy a duck back there, and there's a duck race that's going to be happening the end of August, and there are prizes and that sort of thing. The best part is the money that's raised is going to go to Lake Rescue Association. I think that's all I really need to tell
Phil,
you.
do you have any comments?
No, I think that was good. I would just say, you always mention this. You don't have to go out on purpose. I'm gonna spend an hour hunting milfoil. Just get one of those nets, stick it on your kayak, and do your normal enjoyable kayak. And as you see it, you pick it up. It doesn't have to be, I'm going out and hunting milfoil. Just gonna take a kayak ride, and I'm gonna keep my eye open if I see a big fragment of milfoil.
That's volunteer time.
We do that every time, and there are some skimmers out there. If you need one, want one, take it. So
essentially, anytime you're on the lake, if you're keeping your eyes peeled, that can count, and that can help us.
Absolutely.
We have some questions.
Questions, yes. Chris, could you go to the microphone? I'm so sorry.
What is the milfoil situation in Round Pond?
It's actually better than it has been. And I kind of keep an eye on your property and John Eckel's property and more. And I've taken out a handful of plants, but it's generally better. On the other side of the lake, near the lily pads, it's pretty bad in that area, but there's not a lot of boating over there. And then in the northern part of Lake Rescue, where I think the mat stayed in all winter, it's a little bit better. So I'm surprised that we're as in good a shape as we are.
Oh, good news. Thank you very much for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Lisa's coming to the mic, and Michelle's over there cutting in line.
My question for George is, what is the state looking for in terms of volunteer hours, and what impact does that have on money that we get granted?
I budgeted, the state doesn't look for a specific amount, but I budgeted about 600 hours of volunteer activities for people for this next year. And what they really do is they, there's not a formula for that piece. For the piece of volunteers, they just like to see that there indeed are volunteers. 600 hours is a pretty significant number of hours to collect on people.
Do they look at how many in addition to the total hours?
I report both. To be perfectly candid, I'm
So
not sure which they end up doing, but I report both of those.
And maybe they want more broader participation is probably better.
I think so.
I just want to say something so that people don't think, since you think things are looking better right now, that means we don't need this money, because even though we don't have the big clumps, I have to tell you that I've picked up a record number of new plants. And the new plants they grow like crazy. I mean, hundreds of new plants all over the place along the edges in Benson Cove and Round Pond. So to me, that doesn't bode well for next year if we don't get out there and pull out those new plants. And those are really easy to pull out because they have such shallow roots that if you see a new little plant, just pull it out and you've saved a lot of stuff.
That's an excellent point. And so it's getting those out this year.
Exactly.
So you can tell when you pull out a plant they're perennial. It's a multi-generational plant.
Right.
It'll have a big root ball, multiple stalks. That's a plant that rooted there 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
But if it's new and it's just this tall,
it's got a tiny
and it's
little root
bright
ball.
green, all you got to do is pull down near the root, and the whole root just comes out. It's just a little
stick 2
root.
fingers under it and pull it out.
Exactly.
And I found, just from experience, when I pull those out, I go back and check, they don't come back.
Exactly.
So that's
You know,
the key. That's an excellent.
I like to use the word extract rather than pull, because we really do want to try to get down and get the root ball too. So preferably don't just take the plant.
And not many people know this, but if you put a little olive oil, garlic, and you put it through a food processor, it makes an excellent pesto.
So I do want to add something. We're all guilty of not tracking and turning in our hours. You have all come to me and confessed your crimes. I need for you to log those hours. Log those hours.
Thank you. I think we have a little bit of a financial report on milfoil from Kevin that we can roll.
This projection is presented to show the impact the increased spending from dredging and the milfoil program will have on our cash and investments by the end of 2024. Since Lake Rescue Association began the Rescue Our Lakes campaign in 2020, Lake Rescue's cash investments have been growing as we deferred the dredging project each year. Now, in 2024, we will use a net $295,000 in cash by the end of 2024. And the primary driver is the implementation of the dredging project, which I have in here at $317,000. However, based on my assumptions, as indicated in the projected activity, I expect that we should finish the year with approximately $100,000 in the bank. This will enable us.
What happened? Whoops.
Us to begin 2025 with sufficient funds to continue the milfoil program and with some cushion as we raise more funds in 2025.
Okay, well, that's our milfoil report. Chair entertains a motion to accept the milfoil report.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie, seconded by Spencer. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to talk about fundraising. Spencer's going to go to that, but I think it's apropos to point out that after dredging and the milfoil expenses, our cash reserves are going to be down, and we have, as Kevin said, about a year of operating expenses on after that. So it means that the fundraising is going to have to continue as we take that. Milfoil is an existential threat to our property values. You know, if you look at some of the lakes around, Lake Nineveh, you can look to Lake Bomazine. I mean, I'm sure our
Star Lake.
That's what I meant. Star Lake is doing it. That if it goes unchecked, it can choke out your lake, and nobody will be able to get a kayak or a paddleboard or a speedboat or a pontoon boat through there, and it really would have an effect on our property value. So it's something that we have to stay on top of and take care of this work. So with that, let's go on to fundraising and Spence Rubin.
Thanks, Bruce. I think most of this stuff has been covered, but I'll start with just saying a big thank you to the committee that has really helped membership and fundraising over the past few years. It's Jane Simon, Sharon Fleischer, Barb Silver, and with Gigi, Jackie, myself. It's been a great group. It's a great way to get involved if anybody's interested in trying to join a committee and kind of dip your toe in some of the work that we do. There's a lot of work to be done, and we welcome anyone who wants to support. We launched the Rescue Our Lakes fundraising campaign back in the fall of 20 and have raised since then over $450,000, which is an incredible testament to everybody in this room and on this call. That is all raised by individuals and homeowners on the lake, so a huge thank you to everybody who's done that. As it's been said a couple times, but can't hurt to reiterate, the dredging activities this fall will deplete most of the funds that we have built, which we built for dredging and milfoil. On top of the $60,000 annual fee that we believe will be our budget for milfoil ratification, like we really are going to need to re-up those numbers over the next couple of years. So our plans for 2025 are to really look at the pledges that are potentially outstanding. We're going to launch, as Jackie and Gigi and Sharon have done a great job building really cool LRA swag, which you guys have seen, the hats and the shirts and the bags. We are going to launch something for the holidays this fall as well, which hopefully brings a little bit of incremental money and some joy to everyone's homes and lives. But we'll also have our regular annual appeal at the end of the year. So if anyone believes that their potential pledge is outstanding and not fulfilled, please come see me. I can help look that over. Our CRM sometimes doesn't cross-reference everything as perfectly and automatically as we'd like, so please come see me if you think there's a chance that you have not fulfilled your pledge. I'm happy to cross that for you.
I also want to remind everybody that there's an opportunity that if you have some appreciated securities, you can donate those securities and not have to pay the capital gains tax as a charitable deduction. So at the end of the year, if you have some investments or you're doing some portfolio balancing or something like that, a good strategy to make a very effective donation is to do that with an appreciated security, so you don't you don't have to pay the capital gains on it. It's a good way to make a contribution that maybe wouldn't hurt as much as a cash contribution.
That's a good point.
Win-win.
You know, the other way that we fundraise, and Jackie, if you want to flip to the next slide, is really around membership and new membership. I'm going to let Gigi talk through all the great stuff that she's really focused on this year. Our membership is up 4%. That's pretty much been our track record the last 3 years, slow, steady gains. We obviously lose some members each year to selling their homes, and we try to grab new members as they purchase. I think we all feel this number should be higher. I believe there's about a 60 home delta probably in where we think that we should be. So there's a number of things. Obviously, it's not the dues are not going to pay for the milfoil support that we need, but obviously anybody who's new can recognize the value of why we need to be fundraising. And so asking all of you guys to help communicate to your neighbors and communicate to new people who've come on board. We're going to work with Kathy and her team to figure out how we can work with people who purchase new homes in the lake to make sure they're aware of what the association does. But just a plug for anybody who's not a member, please, talk to your neighbors and ask, because that's our best way to communicate our message and fundraising.
Well, to your point, Spencer, are you done? Can I go?
I'm done.
To your point, I think that when we look at community building, it is boots on the ground. Somebody moves into your neighborhood, go say hello, bring them a milfoil brochure, tell them about the association. Because what we see in our community building, there are pockets of people who do things together, and they build this synergy. This year, the Lake Rescue organized and member-led events were ice skating, après ski at the mountain meetups, pop-up music event on Discovery Cove, the Loon fundraiser, and the annual picnic. If you want to be involved and engaged, call one of us. If you have an idea, call one of us, email us, because we need you. The only way for us to grow and to be better is to have engaged members. And I've seen our community grow in the most magnificent way. Environmental stewardship. How many lake cleanups did we do? 4 since the flood? And then Green Up Vermont. We secured 12 new people to get Lakewise assessments. That's a very big deal. And as we go forward and we look at the environment, we're talking about how milfoil mitigation will help our property values. It will also help the environment. If we allow an invasive species to choke out our lake, there will be no bald eagle fishing. There will be no fishing. Go to Star Lake and see what happened there. So we really have to, in the coming years, roll up our sleeves and work together as a community. And we can have fun while we're doing it, right? Local business partnerships. I want to say Jackie has done a great job in building those partnerships, and they have supported us, and we'd like to support them. So we seek future collaboration with the businesses in town. And if you have an idea, bring it forward, because every idea matters. I think that's it. I'm nervous about milfoil, so I hope that we can take our community events and build them around mitigating the milfoil and have fun together.
That's great. One last thing on membership. If anybody's unsure of your membership status, also please, you can reach out to Natalie Mans, the email that we have. You can also reach out directly to me too. There's been a lot of kind of confusion over depending on how someone pays and kind of when the system sends an email out. Our fiscal year, when we changed it to a calendar year, there was some overlap in membership, which I recognize is confusing. So starting with 2025, everything should be much cleaner. But please come see me after this, or reach out to me if you have any questions, because I know that can be confusing and frustrating.
Just a little plug for finding out about what's happening and getting involved. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook. See, this is sort of a summary of what Gigi went through of many of the activities that we did in the past year. So thanks everybody for coming out, helping, participating, and spreading the word.
The social media efforts in the last couple of years have been great. Jackie's done a terrific job on that. And, I think there's some momentum that goes in all that. Okay, a question?
Yes, I have a question about the directory. I noticed on the directory sometimes if there was a couple, both were listed, and sometimes they weren't. So I decided to add my name to it instead of just George's, and I think it kicked George out.
What?
So
No more milfoil grant.
So I don't know how that happens, you know, if everybody here is listed on the directory, and if there are two people in the household that both can be listed together.
It's a great question. That was on purpose. We chose to remove George. No, the directory has been an interesting challenge. We redid the directory. It was pulling off of a list from a previous year. It wasn't an active list, it turned out. So everybody who's in there should be one. So typically, there should be one paying member of the household. You can have many if you choose to. There should be one paying member of the household, and there's additional members. The different levels of membership that have historically been in there have caused a little bit of confusion with what goes into a directory, also with who kind of gets access and how your pledges get recognized. So there's been some confusion on that front. We're trying to clean that up. So there shouldn't be a case where someone gets kicked out if somebody else goes in. Every member under a household should be a part of the directory. But I'll check on the George front.
And
if she's primary, though, that means she pays for it, so leave it that way.
And if you guys have a problem, email us. And if you don't get a response, call me, okay? Leave me a message.
There's a question from Kenneth Minkley. Can the LRA send out a link to purchase milfoil marking buoys? We have a lot in the cove we need to mark.
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
We
We'll
can
put
do
that
that.
on the social media channels, and I guess we can send out an email.
Great. So I'm going to call an audible here. We have Tim Carey with us, and Tim just texted my Apple Watch, which was my birthday present for my wife. Thank you, Michelle. So we were able to do that. He's got a bear shot in Mount Holly that he has to respond to. So we're going to change the order. He was going to be last, but now what we're going to do is hear from Tim Carey for a few minutes. He'll make a presentation, answer questions for a few minutes, and then he can go and take care of that bear.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
See if I can remember. So Tim has been as a game warden since 2000.
Yep, 2013. I live in Shrewsbury, not too far away. You'll see me out on the lake in uniform, and then also not in uniform too. So.
Yeah, and then his grandfather lived here in Ludlow. I heard from this.
Yeah.
You may not know that Sergeant Carey was the 2019 Warden of the Year. He was honored by Governor Scott, and that was an award that went both for the provinces in Canada and in the Northeast United States, and so that's quite an honor. He's a nice guy. We always see him on the lake. You know, Tim, what you probably don't know is as soon as you go in the lake, there's a text chain that goes around. It says that says the boat cop is out. So
I'm okay with that. Yeah, Doc Carey was my great-grandfather, and his office was on Pleasant Street, not too far from here.
That's awesome. All right, so Tim, tell us a little bit about what you do, what you're concerned about, and then maybe answer some questions from our folks here.
Yeah, I don't have any formal presentation planned, but I want to answer your questions, tell you what I look for on the lake, and see what you guys have as far as questions. I'm guessing wake boats are going to come up. I do vessel inspections, safety inspections, which some of you might be familiar with. I'll come up and I have a form I fill out, and then once everyone passes, I'll give you a safety inspection sticker, which goes on your boat. We'll see that, state police will see that, and just give you a thumbs up for the rest of the summer. Some of the things we look for on that vessel inspection are going to be PFDs, life jackets, for everyone on board the vessel. If you're an adult, you don't have to wear it. You just have to have it on the boat in case of an emergency. That would apply to any vessel. Paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, or a motorboat would also be required to have those. If you're under the age of 12, you have to wear that life jacket while you're underway. So if you anchor up, you wouldn't have to wear it. But if you're paddling around or underway in a motorboat, you have to wear it. I'm going to ask for your registration, where I'm going to take down all the information. If you are a motorboat, you have to be registered in a state. Whether it's Vermont or a different state, that doesn't matter. I'm going to ask for a fire extinguisher, if you're required to have a fire extinguisher. If you have an inboard motor, I'm going to ask to hear your bilge blower, which is pumping fumes out from that compartment. And I'm also going to ask for your lights. If it's the daytime, you're not required to have your lights working, but in order to get my safety inspection sticker, you have to have those working. I would encourage people with rental properties on the lake, I don't know if people here have rental properties on the lake, but if you do, if you could post something for your renters to see, especially about life jackets. I don't know if someone already has a form that they could send
I
out.
think we have a refrigerator magnet that we hand out.
Oh, that would be amazing, yep.
Yeah, we hand those out.
If you can get to people, especially about life jackets and safety, before I do, that's the way I would prefer it. So the more people I can have helping on that.
It's also good to tell your renters to get a fishing license.
Yeah, yes, please. I also have some digests, both hunting and fishing digests right here. I only have 6, but please, someone take them, and I can get other people fishing digests as well. Yes,
So
please.
I was boarded by the state police.
Okay.
On my boat.
Recently?
Recently.
Oh.
And so I had to get a new fire extinguisher. There's a new state law, evidently, that it's got to be within certain age.
Yeah, if it's one of those fire extinguishers with the button indicator
Yeah.
versus the needle indicator, which the newer ones all have a needle that will be in the red or the green, and I just look for it to be in the green.
And so, and then he also said that it's not required, but you should have a throwable.
Yes.
So anyway, and so he said the boat was great, it was in good shape, but he couldn't give me the sticker.
Because
so I'm
of
going to hunt you down next time you're out there because I want
That's
my
great.
stickers.
Yeah, when we talk about life jackets and the life jacket requirement, we're talking about a wearable life jacket.
But a throwable is recommended. That'd be like a seat cushion with 2
Yep.
handles. that you
Yep,
could
to
throw
help
someone.
someone else out. But a wearable life jacket is what's required for you on the boat, or paddleboard or kayak. Yep, anything that you're using for transportation out there.
Tim, can you just quickly talk about the difference between what you and the state police look for out there, or are you guys doing?
Yeah, as far as, they're probably not gonna check your fishing license, but as far as safety requirements and safety checkpoints, it's gonna be the exact same thing. We'll motor up to you, look for your registration, fill out that form, and give you a sticker. Sometimes I can do it on the dock, which is great. I can do it on the boat launch, which is great, before anyone enters the water. But yeah, please wave me down if you see me out there. I'm happy to run you through an
And
inspection.
actually, he said you should keep, I got a copy of his report, and
Yep.
I just folded that up and put that with my registration.
That's perfect.
So if you boarded me, I could show you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna step on your boat, I'll just motor right up to
Yeah.
you, but yes, when I fill this out, it's 2 copies. One stays with me, one goes with you, along with the sticker if you receive a sticker. So, yeah, something to expect when you see me out there. I can talk a little bit about wake boats.
Sure.
So there was a recent law passed that excluded lake rescue, as I'm sure you know, from being able to use wake boats to their capacity, but it did not outlaw them as a vessel. So I guess the biggest thing I've gotten phone calls on is that there's a wake boat out there, but not in violation. It is in violation if that wake boat decides to fill its reservoirs inside of it, whether they're a bag or a tank, which sinks them further into the water and motor around like that. It would also be a violation if someone was behind the wake boat not holding onto a rope. The definitions are on the DEC's website, but that is, I guess, the biggest thing to point out is that being on the lake and operating as a normal vessel is not a violation for those boats. Only a violation if they use them for what they're designed for.
Go ahead and ask your question from where you are, and we'll repeat it here, so.
That'd be great.
Question is, what can we do about if we see somebody out there doing, surfing the wave?
Yeah. The law listed as wake sports. You could call me. Bruce has my phone number. You could also call state police, and they could refer it to, if state police is out there patrolling like they were that day, they would be able to tell you who's the closest.
I would say, one of the suggestions that I would make is if you see somebody doing it and they're close to your property, try to grab a video of them so we can know what the boat looks like and all that. I think sometimes there's a little confusion about what is actually a wake sport and what isn't. As Tim said, it's if you're holding a rope, that's okay if you don't have the ballast, but if you're surfing off a wake without a rope, that makes a difference. And you know, one of the challenges that we have in all of that is like I said, we don't have any enforcement authority. It's much like, for years, we've dealt with jet skis, you know, the personal watercraft. Those aren't allowed on our lake either because of the size. And, you know, we don't have a problem with it, but, you know, sometimes somebody will come and launch a jet ski at the fishing access, and if we're around, we might tell them, hey, they're not legal here, but.
That'd be great, yeah. Whenever a new law is passed, education is our biggest priority. I definitely understand that this upset a lot of people with wake boats, and I'm just trying to.
Well, I think one of the things that's hard about lake rescues is it's a narrow lake and it's not all that big, and if you go by the 200-foot rules that they have, you know, in the statute, it's hard to do it anywhere on that. You know, it's the same thing with water skiing. I mean, so you have to be practical. We have other questions?
Yes, I have a comment. Even without the ballast filled, those boats throw off a huge wake. I saw someone out there, and I went and, you know, just said just so you know, you're not supposed to be doing this on this lake. And he said, but my ballast tanks aren't filled. Yeah. But it still looked like someone was, you know, I don't know if they were holding, I think they were holding a rope. So if they're holding a rope, it's okay, and if they're not, then it's not okay?
Correct. Everything you're describing would not be a violation under this new law. If a boat does not have its ballast filled and is pulling someone that is holding onto a rope, that's, you know, would not be prohibited under this statute. And some boats do create more wake than others, but if they don't have these capabilities of filling ballast and sinking the boat, or they're not using them, then it would not fall under this.
Yeah,
this
it's very hard to tell when you're, you know, when you just see someone. They're big boats.
It is hard to
with
tell.
With a big engine.
Yeah.
Tim, we had a question earlier from Jenna D'Antonio, who is asking about bear encounters. You know, around Lake Rescue, I've seen a bear in my yard 3 or 4 times this summer. We've had a lot of garbage can attacks where, actually last summer, I had my garage door up and a bear went into my garage, took a tall kitchen trash bag into its teeth and ran down the street with it.
Yeah,
you know.
I'm happy to talk about bears too, but before I shift to bears, you mentioned the 200-foot regulation. I'm glad you brought it up just so everyone else also knows about that. Probably the most common laws that I'm enforcing out there is going to be that 200-foot rule, life jackets, and then fishing licenses. So those are the big hot topics, I guess, and if anyone else.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, we have a question back there.
Yeah, and then I'm happy to shift to bears.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the fishing, what is the rule again on people fishing towards the land? How close can they throw their line?
Yeah.
The question for those of you on Zoom from the audience was how close can they cast a line towards land?
Yeah, it's a good question. So people who are 15 and older are required to have fishing licenses, and where they're allowed to fish, if they're on the water, they are allowed to be there. They're not allowed to be on your land, on your dock, but there is no regulation that would prevent them from casting an inch from your dock if they are on waters of the state, which Lake Rescue is. It's kind of the give and take of having waterfront property, is that you are in a public place where that water is, and they are allowed to be there. Yeah, great question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about your other hat, your wildlife management hat.
Yeah.
Loons, are we doing everything we can to protect the loons on our lake? The bald eagle, are we doing everything to protect the bald eagle? And finally, I've noticed there are several flocks of Canadian geese that are landing on different properties and on the lake. They're cast, they leave excrement all over. Is there a program about following the eggs in the spring? How can we get rid of those Canadian geese?
Just to repeat the question for those on the Zoom, it was about wildlife, the loons, the eagles, and mitigating against Canada geese.
Yeah, those are 3 good questions. I'll try to hit them as well as I can. As far as loons go, absolutely, we're protecting loons. A big way is preventing lead sinkers. Lead sinkers, if ingested by loon, will 100% kill them. So that's something that I'm...
You know, the Loon Conservancy just installed at the fishing access a disposal tube for lead sinkers. So if you find a lead sinker or a line,
Yeah.
you can just go ahead and put it in that, and then it doesn't end up back in the lake.
Yep, check your old toolboxes. You shouldn't be able to purchase lead sinkers if they're under ½ an ounce in Vermont, but the old tackle boxes is what I'm seeing them in. So we're doing that. If you ever saw someone harassing a loon, definitely call me. That's something I need to know about. As far as the eagle goes, they fall, the same thing can affect them. Lead poisoning is a big deal. We had an incident where a eagle died on Lake Rescue on the ice. I don't know if everyone knows about that. The necropsy came back that it died of a rodenticide, which is a rat poison, an anticoagulant rat poisoning, which would have happened secondhand. So it ingested something that had rat poison in it.
So you're saying the eagle hunted the rat and ate it?
Yeah, or the rat ingested rat poisoning, or a squirrel did, and then died outside of the home, and then the eagle fed on that dead animal and got the poison into its body through that. So I would encourage people to make sure that they are following the directions on the box if they are using those, or find alternatives so we don't have incidents like this happening. And then if anyone ever got information that someone was shooting at an eagle, in this case it did have a rifle pellet in its body that was not the cause of death, but showed up in an x-ray. So hard to tell. It was a 12-year-old eagle. Hard to tell when and where that happened. I'm not saying that it happened on Lake Rescue, but something to be aware of. Yeah.
Gary?
What are the geese?
Oh, the geese. Yeah, thank you. There is a permitting process for the egg, what you described with the eggs. They are a federal migratory bird that are protected with those regulations, and getting permits to deal with them is difficult, besides the eggs. Star Lake is the only one that I've heard of being successful with that federal permit, but it's not at a state level. It's at a federal level because they are a migratory game bird. Yeah, good question.
Lake Rescue Association could encourage people who have houses around the lake not to put out food, not to do anything to attract those geese.
Yeah.
In fact, to try to deter them, keep them away from them.
Yeah.
We can do that. Carey?
I've known Tim for a long time.
Yeah.
Very long time. I was introduced to Tim as my son's dad. That's how it got passed around. Not my son, I'm the dad. So with that, that was my first indoctrination with that. I encourage everybody with young children to introduce them to Tim. He's a great resource. He's always there. He's ready to help out. I'll give you a pat on the back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. If anyone needs me, I'm happy to help.
Okay, do we have any questions on the Zoom? Oh, yeah, we want to talk about bears.
Yeah. I was just going to say, can you go back to the bears? And
Sure.
can you give us a sense of how many bears are around Lake Rescue?
Yeah, we live in an area with a high bear population for sure. And along with the high bear population, we're seeing an increase of these incidents where bears are less afraid of people and looking for food. They aren't looking for you, they're looking for easy food. And the biggest, most important thing we can do is make sure that there is no food source for them to associate with our houses. So the biggest one is trash, finding a secured way to keep your trash. I use a steel box. It's like a job box at my house, and I can put my trash in there. It's outside of my shed, and it's very secure. And because bears know that they can't get food, they don't come around. When a bear figures out, like, hey, there's no food here, they go in the woods where they belong. So controlling what they're attracted to is the biggest thing. Bird feeders, making sure bird feeders are down, and trash, securing trash in a spot where they can't get to it is the biggest thing we can do.
Can you give us a little bit of visibility on pets, you know, cats and dogs and bears and?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is if someone is feeding cats outside, or you have dog food outside, that is going to attract a bear. They're not after your cats or your dogs. They're looking for food. In some instances, they will kill chickens, but a lot of times they're after the chicken feed instead of the chickens. In some instances, they will kill pigs, but most of the time they're after the pig food. And this is like an escalating behavior. So if they've figured out like, hey, I can stop by and get trash, and no one really cares, and they just take pictures of me, then that will continue, kind of like a dog that's learned to beg at the dinner table or jump up on the counter and get food. It's the same exact behavior. And if the food is still there, that behavior will lead to a bear being habituated to people and not afraid.
Just an elaboration question. So somebody's asked if the steel box can be used year-round.
Yeah. So in the winter time, you're not going to have to worry as much. We tell people that December through April, or the beginning of April, you're generally safe to feed birds. That's all weather dependent though. Sometimes we'll have like a big thaw and bears will be out looking for food. If a bear decides like, hey, it's warm enough, it's worth me going out trying to look for food, they will absolutely come out of their dens. So it's all weather dependent, but bird seed is a huge source of calories. And we say that, in the winter months when they're hibernating is when they're sleeping is when it's okay to feed birds. And I would say the same thing with your trash. It's less to worry about, but coming up with a permanent solution, because Ludlow and Plymouth is just such a high, there's a lot of bears, and they're learning that people are a good place to eat and hang out, and it's safe, which is not what we want. Yes?
Can you recommend a trash container or a steel trash container that we could maybe disseminate to our membership?
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend like a particular brand. There are bear-specific trash cans out there that you could Google and research. I'll let you know that they are very expensive. You can, if you have a dumpster, if it was my choice, we wouldn't have any dumpsters in Vermont that don't have steel lids. Casella does, for an upcharge, provide steel lids. Not all dumpster companies do. Electric fencing around your dumpster would be another way of handling that issue. And I've seen success with electric fencing and with steel lids. What I did was I purchased a steel job box on Facebook Marketplace. Craigslist has them. They're also expensive brand new, but a couple $100 would get you a permanent solution that would last, into the future, not just the summer. Yeah.
You mentioned that if someone wanted to report a violation or whatnot, they could contact you.
Yes.
But if I'm correct, you have a pretty large area
I do.
to try to cover.
Yeah.
So what might one expect if they placed a call to you?
Yeah, so if you call State Police Dispatch and hit extension 3, it'll get you right through to a dispatcher. If I'm not working or on vacation, that would get you to another game warden if you had a question. My cell phone number, Bruce has. I'm happy to give anyone who, I can leave some cards here. It's also in the back of the magazine. That is a state cell phone number, and you're welcome to call it. Leave me a message if I don't pick up, and I'm happy to help everyone I can. But yeah, my phone does ring a lot.
And how large is your area?
So it's technically, I think 6 towns right now. It's been up to 13 before, but anywhere in southern Vermont you could see me, whether it's on the New York border or the New Hampshire border or on the Massachusetts border, depending on what's happening, or on Lake Rescue. Yeah. Patrol Bombazine too with other game wardens. It just depends on what's happening. I think the last time Bruce reached out to me, I was on Bombazine.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a commenter asking just for you to go over the 200-foot rule and what that means.
No, thank you. So if you're in a motorboat going at a speed that is not a no-wake speed, then you would have to be 200 feet from anything. That would be a swimmer, another boat, a kayak, the shore, docks. You have to be at least 200 feet to be on plane. Going fast. Hope that helps. Anything else I can clarify with that? Yes, please.
Any way to keep bears out of my blueberries?
The question was about bears and blueberries. It's tough. I actually don't get as many complaints about blueberries, and I think the reason is by the time blueberries are ripe, there's other things that are ripe too. But you're not the only one that complained to me this week about blueberry bushes. If you had beehives, I would tell you that there's no other way to do it other than with electric fencing. That would be a possible solution for your blueberries if it's a big issue. But sometimes it's just bad luck where a bear is passing through and sees your blueberries and there's no trash cans out, so that's what it goes for. But I'd be frustrated too.
They're very persistent.
They are. They're very strong. They're very smart, and
they're
yeah.
delicious. Oh, the blueberries, I mean.
There's a bear hunting season that is coming up.
Any other questions, folks? Yes, sir.
Do you water ski or tube on Round Pond?
As long as you're 200 feet, if you're up on plane, then yeah. There was a question there. I'm happy to, yeah.
If the 200-foot rule is in effect, and it means you have to be a minimum of 200 feet away from anything, a swimmer or a kayak or anything, doesn't that almost mean that every boat going above a no-wake speed on Lake Rescue is constantly in violation of the 200-foot rule? There are kayaks, I've been way less than 200 feet from a boat that is towing something coming by me. So are there any power boats on Lake Rescue that are not in violation of the 200-foot rule?
The situation, I don't know if we can repeat that question, but it was frustration with motorboats being too close to people on a busy day, and that absolutely might be the case, that on a busy day on Lake Rescue, that it's not possible to be, up on plane. But the law says that you have to be at least 200 feet away from other boats, swimmers, kayaks, and that is going to limit you on a busy day. These are for safety reasons,
Right.
Of course. We don't want high-speed boats going close to people.
I think one of the things that we should all look for is, for those of us that have speedboats or pontoon boats and are going, is just to have safety in mind. I don't think anybody expects us to, literally shut down all of the boat traffic for 200 yards, notwithstanding what the rules are. But the way I approach it is just to be prudent and cautious. And if you see somebody in a kayak, try to avoid that. I think sometimes, people that are pulling a tuber or a water skier, it's just incumbent upon them to be more cognizant of what's going on in the lake and to do all of that. I don't think anybody wants to shut down speedboats, but what we look for is people to be safe. We also have a convention on Lake Rescue that we've always had, is that we go counterclockwise. And not everybody knows about that, and so we try to communicate. That's not a law, but it's the custom on this lake, so
Yeah, that's good for me
people
to
can
know.
get into the pattern. So, other questions? Any other questions from the Zoom call? Well, Tim, go take care of that bear. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Please pass out my phone number, or if you could post it maybe somewhere where people
we can send an email out.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Okay, bye, Tim. Thank you.
Always these here for anyone who needs them.
Okay, so when we stopped, when we did the audible and went to Tim, we were at, I think, the state dock.
Yes.
Okay, so first we have a motion to accept the membership and fundraising report.
I'll move that.
Okay, George, and second by Spencer. All in favor, aye? Aye, thank you, okay. So, we don't need to spend much more than a minute on this, but, in 2017, the Department of Environmental Conservation and the Fish and Wildlife Service put in a permit application to install a dock on the fishing access. And there was a public meeting about, a public comment period, and then a public meeting. And the comments were universal from the interested parties around that they thought that the dock was an ill-advised idea. And so we decided to fight that. And it was a long, long process. It first started with mediation. And then we couldn't come to any kind of a settlement in mediation. And then we decided to, after a while, there was a decision by the state to go ahead with the dock, and then we appealed that decision to the environmental court. And it ended up getting the can kicked down the road for many, many years. First off, what happened was we hired a lawyer in Springfield named George McNamara, and he passed away. You know, we were getting ready for the court hearing, and I reached out and I found out from his partners that he had died. And so we asked for a postponement, and we ended up having to hire another attorney. This one was up in Burlington that practiced before the court, and we went through the process. So finally, after all of these delays, and then COVID came in and all of that, from 2017 all the way to 2023, it went, and we had a trial, and there was a de novo hearing that took place, and I testified at the hearing in Burlington. Barb Silver, our past co-president, testified, and Kate Haslam, who's an adjacent homeowner, testified. And then it took another 6 months for the decision, and what it came down to is you can't fight City Hall. So the state prevailed in that, and so we fought the good fight and lost. And so now we've been told that the state intends to install this dock in 2025. So, we took a vote. Our membership wanted us to fight this. We went ahead and fought it. We made a very, very good case and spent, probably about 100 hours preparing for the various hearings and testimonies and all of that. It ended up costing more than we had hoped for because of the complications of having to start with a new lawyer and start from scratch and doing all of that. But the good news is the expenses are behind us, and they're going to see what the dock looks like. I still think it was a poor decision that was ill-advised because it's a crowded space and not going to be safe. But that's what we had. So that's the update on the state dock case. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
What's the size of the dock?
It's a 50-foot dock that's going to be 90 degrees from the shore, that is purported to be handicap accessible. The idea is that it could allow somebody that is physically handicapped to be able to launch their boat and get on it from that. I can't imagine a person in a wheelchair going on the dock, but I guess that's what the intention is. To be clear, we're not against handicapped access to the lot. The lake, everybody should have the lake be accessible, but we think that the design attributes of this dock were ill-advised, and we thought a better design could have been done, and the state was inflexible in that. And
Bruce, it was on one size fits all, so a big lake like Bombazine had the same.
Right, so the state plans to do these all over the state, and what would be appropriate for Lake Bombazine or Lake Champlain, we just didn't think was appropriate for the small parking lot and space that we had in Lake Rescue, but as I said, we didn't prevail, so that's it. Okay, I don't think we need to get a motion for that, it's just an update, informational. So next we have open board seats. Who's going to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk about this. So we have several members that will be completing their terms of service over the next year. So we are looking for applications from new members interested in serving on the board. I am relatively new to the board. I think this is my second year. It's a great way to connect with your neighbors and contribute to the health of the lake and our community. We're seeking several skill areas among applicants, so finance, communications, environmental advocacy, member engagement, but there's probably many other things that you all offer that we don't have on our team currently. So a great way, as Spencer and Judy mentioned, is to start volunteering to serve on a committee, help out with some events, provide some ideas and input. But if you are interested and know somebody who's a fit, let us know. Come talk to us afterwards. We will also post a link to a form online so that interested parties can apply. It'll be very simple, but it's just a way to get to know what your interests are.
I can tell you in the years that I've been doing this, it's, I've had a house on Lake Rescue for 25 years, and I joined the board in 2017, and I've gotten to know so many of my neighbors that I otherwise wouldn't have known. And as much as I've given, I've gotten a lot too. So it's good. And just while we're thinking about it, I want to talk about volunteers. Our volunteers on the committees are so good, and I have a chance to do a mea culpa. Sharon Flesher volunteered on the picnic this year, and when I was the MC of the picnic, I didn't recognize her, and I just really feel bad because she worked so hard on it, so I want to thank her for her efforts.
Speaking of efforts, I mean, Bruce, it was a perfect segue. Bruce does a great job of giving everybody else credit for the work that they do. And obviously 13 years, 7 years. Bruce talks about the number of hours that Kevin puts into finances and dredging. Bruce puts in more hours than anybody else on this. He's the one who the dashboard calls. He's the one who the state calls. He fields everything from everybody, and he's put in hundreds upon thousands of hours over the last 7 years. And I think we all need to give him a gigantic round of applause.
Thanks for that recognition. I appreciate it. I will tell you that right there behind every good man is a good partner, and Michelle works very hard on all of your behalf too, kind of silently in the background. Has been my great partner in all of this. So thank you for this, and I'm going to be around. I'm going to try to take a step back, but I love this lake. I love this community. I really enjoy the fellowship of these board members, and so I appreciate your kind words and your applause, and it's been my pleasure. So what's next?
We have
Brendan McNamara.
Brendan.
So Brendan became the municipal manager here in Ludlow in last year in April, and this poor guy, right after he joins, we have the worst flood in 100 years, and welcome to Ludlow, I would say.
I thought I was on a reality show for about 6 months.
So, and I can tell you, when he was appointed, I sent him an email. I went on LinkedIn and I saw his thing and I welcomed him to the community, and I got a call that very same day, and he said, well, tell me about what you can do, what you guys do at Lake Rescue, and it can work. And every time I've called him, he's helped. The most recent one was last weekend. We had a cleanup day, and we were taking everything from truck axles out of the lake to delineating trees and doing that. And I'm a little bit afraid of Patty at the dump.
Noted.
Yeah, and he told me he's afraid of her too, but that's funny because he's the boss. But I called Brendan and asked if he could grease it for us to be able to put our materials at the dump without a fee. And every time we've asked for something like that, he's done it. When we've had questions about road grants and repairs, he's been helpful in all that. So he and the select board have been just terrific in working with. And what we thought we would do today is have him, take your questions. He's a local guy. You live in Cavendish.
Cavendish.
Right? Yeah,
Yep.
Cavendish, and it's great to have him here. And he's going to tell you about a couple things that the town is doing, and then we'll have a question and answers from him.
So, and to Bruce's point, he did call me and ask if things could be taken to the transfer station at no cost, and I did say, I will call you back because I need to ask the boss first, which is Pat. So Brendan McNamara, I've been here for about, just over a year. I started last year in April. It's been an interesting year. Thankfully, born and raised in the area, born and raised in Cavendish. And being fully transparent, the only principal that I have ever been to the principal's offices is sitting right there in George. So, long history here. So,
You're a terror.
I was in first grade, but that's all right. So, so thanks for having me. I thought I'd just, as Bruce said, just give you kind of a little overview of what the town, where we're at, just in day-to-day operations right now, and then answer any questions. I have a daily, an ongoing dialogue with a lot of people on the lakes, with concerns. Obviously, the last year has been tough. And I've said it a number of times, and I love coming to this because, we're all one community, and I know sometimes it can feel like it's sometimes where it's separate, and that's the town, we live in, whether you're a primary, full-time, secondary, part-time, doesn't matter. We're all Ludlow residents, and that's all what we're here for. So, it's my goal to blend us together even more so, and that's kind of why I'm here, and that's my job. I'm here because I love it, and I'm fortunate enough that I was able to be born and raised in this town. I grew up on the lake, and I've been able to find a job here. So very fortunate. So from a standpoint of the town, it's been a busy year. A lot of things. We've had to step over some things that, as a municipal manager, you come in and you have these grandiose ideas, and I usually subscribe to the fact that as a manager in any role, I let things settle as a new person in the role. I'm not one who's going to come in and say, you're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. That's not my style. Usually let things calm for 10, 12 months, see how things play out. That flood set things back drastically. So, we're kind of in that role now of really starting to take, play offense rather than defense in town. Some of the things that we're looking at right now in town, we are looking at merging the village and the town. That has, some impacts on the town as a whole. Obviously, years ago with the village of Ludlow, the town of Ludlow, there were separate entities, sort of. Now it's time to try and look at maybe merging those, having one board rather than 2 or 3 boards, even from an administrative side of things. We formed a committee that's going to look at that and make a recommendation to the voters and probably put that on a ballot for a vote. But there are implications and questions that have to come up, and the reason we put those out as a committee is because we want to field those questions. More people in the room, the IQ goes up, is the way I feel. So the more we can look at these things, the better off we're going to be. The other committee we just started is a local options tax. That's been talked about a lot in town, and at this point, that'd be essentially the state of Vermont. Communities are allowed to put a 1% sales tax on different portions, whether that's rooms, meals, retail, et cetera, to help offset any aspects of projects, costs in town. I'm not saying whether that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, but it would be, we are charged with looking at options for the towns. We have...
Brenda, would that be for just like VRO short-term rentals, or is it for long-term?
So there's a lot. So it's not just rentals. So there's, and just going off the top of my head, the local options tax, a lot of towns, I think there's 45 in that neighborhood in Vermont that have them. And you can have you could tax retail, you could tax rentals, you could tax alcohol and meals. So it's basically 3 or 4%. The state takes their pound of flesh, which is 30% of that, and the town would end up in 70% of what the tax was, and that would be put towards, essentially, you don't want to take that money and put it towards, the operating budget. But, I'm not here to campaign for an option tax, trust me. I'm just saying that those are things we're talking about, because there are, towns have a lot of costs that are forthcoming that unfortunately are going to have to be purchased one way or the other.
What can the town do to reduce our school tax that that's the lion's share.
If I had an answer for that, we wouldn't be talking about this. So, and that's the taxing issue is a difficult situation in this town. I mean, our municipal rate went down, which is great, but I digress on that. So the other, so those are the two things. If you're interested, they're going to be online, views. The other big one that we've just finally rolled out, just kind of a PSA, is we have instituted what is called, it's a municipal alert system. It's called OnSolve Code Red. There is a link on the website for the town. It's the first thing down. You can go on and sign up for this. There's also a video with myself on Okemo Valley TV with one of our head dispatchers. I will warn you, at that point, I have a ridiculous mustache in that video, so don't let that scare you. But so what that is we found during that flood in July that it is very difficult to get information out when needed from a municipality. And by that I mean, as we know, for every good thing that social media does, it does about 4 bad things. So trying to get, in the town does not have a Facebook page. We do not have a Facebook page. But there are a number of, local community Facebook pages that put out great information, and that is great. But during a flood or a major hazard, there needs to be a source where it is coming from me or the select board or the fire chief or the police chief, and my name is on it. So people say, okay, I heard this, and I heard this. No, well, Brendan said this is the case. We're okay. So this is OnSolve Code Red. Go online, sign up for it. It will come either, you can do it by phone, text, email. One thing I have done it, I just recommend once an alert comes out, go on your phone and change the number. So I changed mine to Town of Ludlow alerts. So when my text comes through, it doesn't say, 5542, it says Town of Ludlow. So I know what's coming. Again, that's not going to be used to tell everyone that there's a pancake breakfast on Saturday morning. If that's coming out, you should probably pay attention.
Brendan, we can put something in our newsletter.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll send you, Bruce, we also have a QR code that people can scan. You can put it in the newsletter. The Okemo Valley TV link that's up now has a kind of a walkthrough of what we're doing.
That's a great program.
But other than that, we're kind of, business as usual in town. You see the timber inns down. That was part of a FEMA buyout. That's been going on for 5-6 years. We finally got that down. So, kind of looking now at, getting back to the work that we stepped over last year that we had to get things back, because unfortunately with that flood, the conversation we looked at was, great, we got to rebuild, but okay, we have 40,000 people that are going to be coming here in December. That was part of the reason the wastewater plant looks like it is. It's functional, but we're still battling with FEMA, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But we are doing, I think, as a community, we are doing well. Really still, we have, in terms of flood, talk about, I know flood mitigation is a big piece right now. There is a lot going on with that, and that the town is looking at and that we're working with to try and look at the bigger picture. And I know we talked about this a little bit last year, and one of the projects, programs that we're begun working with is regional planning, which is now called MARC, Mount Escutney Regional Planning, is starting to fire up this program called the River Program, and that looks at projects that are flood and hazard related. They just helped us create and update our local hazard mitigation plan that looks at the town as a whole and things outside of the town and what can be done. But this River Program is looking at culverts, streams, projects, and what we can do to fix not only, the project, but what around it, what caused the problem. And I think that's a big piece of this.
Well, Brendan, I would say that that's really important because, part of our sedimentation problem, that the whole dredging project that's gonna cost over $300,000 this year to fix, is because unimproved roads in Tysons and Plymouth flow into the Brack River and end up in the channel between Round Pond and Lake Rescue. And, you know, we dredged in 2011, and here we are, you know, in 2024, having to dredge again, and, you know, presumably, in another 10 years, we'll have to do it again unless something's done about, you know, the problems upstream.
Well, and there's, you know, I dealt with this, you know, I was the town manager for Cavendish for 7 years before I came here. And really looking at infrastructure and getting on a page where everybody we're moving that in a way right now too, that is, you know, when you go to fix something, fix it with the next 10 years in mind. So, you know, we did it on, you know, Archibald Lane in the 100 region of East Lake Road just recently. There's been a culvert in the 115 East Lake Road that we just put a new drop culvert in there, drop inlet, because it had been just a regular 18-inch culvert. Well, it wasn't working, so we had to fix that. We had, I think it was 2 years ago when I first came on, we had the Better Roads grant for a culvert by Archibald Lane. Because of the flood and the timing, that got pushed off, but we still had that culvert to fix. We have now replaced that, and we did that on our own dime. But those are things that you have to do and will continue to do, you know, through town. So it's just, again, I'll open it up to questions. I won't keep going, but right now as a town and a community, we are, you know, we've bounced back, you know, as a community as a whole. That's a tribute to the town, the staff, all of you. It's been a difficult year, but I think you know, you've bounced back. We're resilient. We've done it. Unfortunately, have done it before. Unfortunately, might do it again. But it's something. Unfortunately, I think we're better for. But we're getting there, anyways. Whether it sometimes feels like I'm treading in milfoil, literally.
So, just give me a second, and then we'll get to questions. Let me throw a hand grenade on my way out the door.
That's fine.
Why don't we pave the roads around Lake Rescue and Lake Pauline?
You know, that's funny. Somebody texted me today, said they're going to ask you about the road. I'll be honest with you. If I had to guess, the first reason is cost. You know, I just ran some numbers last night because I was just going over my head. To pave East Lake Road would probably be $2 million. The costs are just astronomical. Aside from, and you know, it is literally a hand grenade, because for every reason that you could say to pave the road, because again, paving the road, it's easier to maintain. It's a lot easier on my trucks because they're not, you know, not hammering a dirt road plowing. Mud season goes away. It's correct. But then you have runoff that completely changes the stormwater situation there. You know, what's now coming off the road is going to be 5 times that going onto people's property. So you increase the culverts. Obviously, speed. That's a no-brainer. We've talked about, there's a lot of been talking about paving another road, Gia Farm Road, which is great, but it's a 35. So
I just know that when we look at Lake Rescue and we look at the culverts that come down in different places in the drainage, there's a lot of road gravel that.
Yeah. Oh, and again, that's where I'm not opposed to it at all. It's just the roads to pave, they are major projects. Yeah. So it's something we will look at. You know, you're not and it's be full transparency, you know, because once we say, hey, let's pave East Lake Road, all right, let's pave North Hill, you know, so it's where you're just going to have to really dial in on what the cost, I mean, and like everything, it comes to cost.
Well, you know, I guess the thing that I would say is it would be great if we could talk to our congressional delegation, you know, our senators, and as the federal government's looking at infrastructure money and things like that, to see if we could you know.
Well, yeah,
have the town
'cause-
advocate for a project like that. That's just.
That's
a comment.
100%, because a paved road, again, for the ease of what we deal with on a daily basis, mud, snow, makes our lives a little easier. Or not, I don't say ours, I'm sleeping at that point
Okay,
with the
well,
highway crew.
I appreciate that. Linda, you had a question?
Yes, this Mount Escutney Regional River Project, does it cover Moneybrook, AKA Moneybrook?
So this is part of it, and I can't speak, because Moneybrook is in Plymouth. So they were, when we did our hazard mitigation plan, there was a lot of talk about that. And it's really getting, and they're going to have some more public meetings. I know they had one. I was actually out of town for it. It was just last week. But the big point of it is to look at surrounding towns and how we can work together to solve the problems. So ideally, Plymouth should be involved with Moneybrook, because it's very similar to flood storage where now the Timber Inn is. That's going to be great. It doesn't have a drastic effect on Ludlow. It's great for Cavendish, because it just stores that much water. So to your point, answer your question, it should be. Whether it is, I don't have an actual answer, but I know they are working with all the surrounding communities.
We have a question on the Zoom that says, is there a future plan to hook up the Lake District properties to the town's sewer system instead of relying on septic?
I would doubt it. But there is, it's anything is possible. There is talk about currently running. There is strong investigation on running water and septic to the golf course, which would also tie in Rubley Lane and Okemo Outlook there. So that's moving in that direction. Obviously, astronomical project, but could it be done? Sure. Not likely.
Okay, questions from the audience? Yes.
I heard a rumor, hopefully it's a rumor, that there is a problem with the reservoir above Ludlow.
Rumor. So there is.
Who told you that, Dick?
The dams has been a hot topic. Our dams are, we have 5 site dams that are flood control dams in the town of Ludlow. And they are in the process of being rehabbed, which means they're going to come in, they're going to re-engineer all of the dams, they're going to dredge them, because right now they only hold probably about half the amount of water that they should hold. We had 2 dams, West Hill and Site 5, which is out off of West Hill, had some damage that was done when the spillway is the auxiliary spillway that when the dam gets too high, the water runs over it. Those were damaged a little bit during last year's flood. The feds are paying for that. That construction should be completed by the end of this year. But the major work on the dams is a 10-year project. It's $40 million. They do 2 dams, 1 dam every 2 years. So I guess could you say, there's a lot of talk that, wow, the dams need to be fixed. Yes, they do. Are the dams doing their job? 100%. Are the dams right now at the chance of failing? No. I was on a call with a firm with the USDA about the safety of the dams, and the engineer who was on the call, I won't say his name, I won't say the company, said, those dams are safe. So if there was a major problem, they would be being fixed, but it's something that we have to work towards.
Well, one thing that I would say is that I hope that the town could keep the finger on the pulse of what's going on with that, because, the time to fix the Red Bridge Dam, which we're mostly concerned about from the Lakes District region, is it's an old dam.
Absolutely.
And it has cracks in it. We see that. I know it's passed the state inspection, with kind of a B. and all of that, but, you know, long-term, sometime in the next 20 years, that dam's gonna have to be fixed.
Absolutely, and we've talked about it, and I talked with our road foreman a little bit more about it, you know, for Redbridge, and we'll talk about Redbridge, you know. Winter, we will take the boards, at least two of the boards out of there.
Actually, there he is, Vincent.
We talked.
And Wes and I had to talk about taking at least some of the sluice boards out of the dam during the winter time, so the lake level would come down a little bit and be less susceptible to flooding.
Vincent and I talk a lot about baseball and sometimes about other things, but that's fine. So, yeah, so the dam, and obviously two of the sluice boards will come out. We've got to look at that project really just as a safety hazard. Because taking those boards out is difficult, putting them back in is difficult. You know, it is 2024. There's got to be something that, ideally, you could probably push a button and raise some of them. So that's something we're looking at as part of some grant funding.
One thought that somebody mentioned to me was that if they put some loops or eyelets into those sluice boards, that you could just take a hook over that and pull them out that way, that it might be something we should take a look at doing that. Chris, did you have a question?
Yes, I don't know whether anyone else had this observation, but we lived through two floods. The flood of Irene was one story. The flood last year was a totally different story. And what we feel is the part of the difference is the real estate building up on the mountains without any thought about clearing land and what's going to hold water back, because the water came from totally different directions. And, you know, we're down at the bottom, and we can't control anything about what comes down. But when it comes down from a completely different direction, under similar flooding conditions, we have to look at real estate. And is there any control over where people build on the mountains?
Sure. There, you know, that's a great point, because obviously with the flooding in July, I was standing at the Okemo Marketplace at 4 a.m. when that bridge let loose where the railroad tracks came down. Nobody saw that coming. Scary, scary experience.
Well, that is a much more dramatic experience than what we had.
Yeah.
And we happen to live next door to the lowest point in time.
So you know. Yeah.
So we saw it coming down. We thought it was coming from the sky.
Yes. Yeah.
It had never come that way before.
So there is, you know, part of that comes with planning in long-term outlook. So planning and zoning, the DRB board, they exercise some oversight, as long as Major Projects Act 250 in the state of Vermont exercise some oversight over building, and where, but there now obviously has to come with more oversight as to building. You're right, because the more trees you remove, the more ground you open up, the more water you have that sheets down, and it has to go somewhere.
Where there were no houses 10 years
Yep.
ago, there are now 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, I think,
Just let loose.
so the state and the federal government are rewriting some of the flooding maps. That's going to be a piece of it. And I know, you know, this river program, that's a small piece of it. But overall, you know, the town exercises their oversight, but it also needs to be a bigger look at that picture.
Right, because I'm sure nobody thought of this when they
No.
divided
No.
3 lots
No.
on top of a
No.
dirt road.
But now, and what the flood that happened in July was one thing. God forbid we have another one. I will bet you it's going to be just as different as that was from Irene.
But anything that's just residential building up on this lovely spot overlooking the lake.
Yeah.
Gotta think about
Well,
what trees they're taking.
100%.
Right, thank you.
Okay, other questions? I'll ask for on the Zoom. Any other questions on the Zoom? Well,
That was easy.
Brendan, on behalf of everybody from the Lake Rescue Association, we appreciate you willing to be here on a Saturday and all that you do for this community. And if there's anything that we can do to help, you know, please let us know. So a hand for Brendan McNamara.
Thank you very much. And I'll say if you have any questions, concerns that come up, Bruce has my email, my cell phone number. My door is always open, so please just stop in, say hi. Makes my day go faster.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brendan.
So folks, you know, before we wrap up, we want to see if there was any other new business or any questions that anybody wanted to ask about doing all of that. Yeah, Gary McIntyre.
I'd like to throw in a plug for sailing.
Oh, yeah. So Gary organizes, Gary McIntyre for years has organized a sailing regatta that takes place on Lake Rescue every Sunday at noon. And it's a sunfish sailboat race. He's got some boats that are available. If you don't have a boat and would like to do that, you can reach out. You could reach out for him. It's a lot of fun. And then he's also looking for somebody to kind of, as he sunsets his operation, take over that Sunday race. And so I know Gary's looking for somebody that he can transition and help with that. And I know those races are a lot of fun. Any other? Yes, Gary? What's that?
I'll add on to that. I started this thing 23 years ago. And back then, in the early days, we had 18 sailors out there on that lake running the sunfish program. We've had as few as 3. We're building back up now, so anyone who's interested, and the favorite part that I had out of all of it is when we had the pandemic, the kids were all in Vermont because they couldn't go to
Camp.
daycare, camp.
Yeah.
And with that, that's the best fun I ever had.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Kids how to sail.
Very good. Any other questions?
Bruce?
Yes.
Just as a reminder, when you leave, there's a table out there. It's got some handouts. It does have the buoys. Back to the milfoil. I told you it wasn't going to go away. There's buoys out there. There are skimmers. If you could use them, take them. Don't forget to buy your ducks. And I also just want to say that from the health standpoint of our lakes, the Black River Action Team has people on both Rescue and on Pauline that collect water samples weekly that are tested through a lab in Claremont, and the results of those are posted on
Yeah, our social media channels. We just started last week, I think, but there's one for this week forthcoming.
Yep,
Stay
and I
tuned.
will also tell you that the testing that was done this week is excellent. Good quality.
So that being said, we're just presenting the data. You know, your decision on whether the lake is safe or not is, you know, make your own decision and do accordingly. We're not advocating you know, a position on that. We just report that to be, you know, informational and all that. I'll make a last call for any questions in the room or Zoom. Yes. I'm sorry?
In the room.
Yes, of course. Sure, go ahead.
While Lisa's getting up there, just to tag on to George's call on milfoil, we had a couple questions coming in through the Zoom chat regarding about whether we'll send the link to purchase milfoil marking buoys for people who aren't here today. We can do that, I think. But also how best to market and share with the LRA that their area may need mats to be installed.
Yeah, I think if you can send an email to George or to Phil, and their email addresses are on the website, and if you mark a buoy, report where it is. I will say that we get calls quite often or emails quite often. There's milfoil at my property, but if it's not an explicit location, it's difficult for us to find that or to send the divers to it. So it's really good to have it marked, and if you mark it with the buoy, you know, that'll be great. The other thing I would say is, if it's on your shoreline and you can get to take care of it yourself, the most expedient thing to do is to, you know, extract that root bulb yourself. And if it's too deep for that, we'll get either one of our volunteers or our divers to go and take a look at it. But try to do the work you can on your own shore first.
Wait, and that's a good point. If any of you dive, you have your little snorkel, please teach others how to harvest the milfoil. I'm not a diver, but it looks like a lot of fun. Phil makes it look so much fun. So if you are able to do that, let's get out there and do it together.
And I would say if you need buoys, if you contact me, I will even deliver them to your house.
Hey, George, what are they supposed to do with the milfoil they collect?
Throw it on shore. Just make sure it's not close enough.
Has to be more than 12 feet or something, right? Make sure that it won't blow back in.
Yeah,
Or you can compost it, right?
I throw mine in the trash.
Put it
If the
in-
bears aren't eating. And then I
Yeah,
just
put it in. I will tell you that Kelly Setner sent me a link during the meeting that says milfoil is edible, and she gave me a link to that. Well, she did too.
yes.
She most certainly did. There's a link here. Well, I'm going to check it out before we publicize it.
We're going to need some taste testers, though.
All right. Yes, sir.
But wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
This is not directly Lake Rescue Association related, but we all really dodged a bullet last week, didn't we, with the flooding, that a lot of areas that were flooded last year were flooded again on the anniversary of the flooding, and since, I'm sure you've all seen, Northeast Kingdom is a mess. So Okemo Valley TV is hosting a fundraiser tonight for flood relief that's an outdoor movie night with a barbecue food truck, and there will be ice cream. It's at 7, starts at 7, the movie starts at 8:30 in the parking lot of Okemo Valley TV. The movie is called The Forgotten, and it's about Cavendish's experience last year with the flood and rebuilding from the flood when they didn't get as much aid. Really, they didn't get aid the way Ludlow got aid. So there's 2 movies. One's a comedy, one is The Forgotten, which I think we'll all find interesting. That's tonight at 7 o'clock. If it rains, it'll be moved inside, so I hope you'll come. It's a $10 donation and for flood relief for the northern areas that were impacted.
Oh, thanks for
recently.
telling us
Very
about
nice.
it. That sounds great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Another movie announcement. How many will still be here on the 24th of August? Not very many. For those that are here, the Friends of the Ludlow Auditorium are staging their 8th annual silent movie night here in the auditorium. And there will be 2 silent movies featured. The admission is free. It's a lot of fun. People get a lot of laughs. So if you're here on the 24th, come on down.
Thank you. What time on the 24th?
What time?
What time on the 24th?
What time?
What
Yeah,
time?
what time?
I believe it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay.
I just wanted to say that besides the coliform bacteria that is tested for every week, the state is also testing and has volunteers. George and I do it for clarity, and I'd say the clarity this year is incredible considering what it wasn't last year. We also test for phosphorus, chlorophyll, and caffeine. And the reason for that is that coliform bacteria can get in the water not only from human excrement, but also beaver and geese and all that stuff. But the only thing that puts caffeine in the water is failing septic systems and human excrement. So it's a new thing that they're doing. It's, I think, only the 2nd year that they've been testing for caffeine. But we do that every 2 weeks. And we don't know the results that get sent off to the state.
Okay.
And I'll be selling ducks.
All right, last call for questions. I think that's it. So the chair entertains a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. Yeah, second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Okemo Valley TV for and Sarah up there for recording this meeting, and thank you for all you do.